No Linda yet.
We're only one body short.
Okay.
We do have quorum now, Chairwoman, so whenever 10 o'clock hits and you're ready to go.
Thanks, Noel. Okay, I think we're good. Good morning, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order at 10 a.m. As many of you may know, the governor has recently signed Public Act 101-0640, making certain amendments to the Open Meetings Act so that we, along with other boards and commissions, can continue to host virtual meetings during this COVID-19 public health emergency, provided that certain conditions are met. One of those conditions is that I, as head of the Chicago Plan Commission, determined that an in-person meeting of the Chicago Plan Commission is not practical nor prudent. I want to make sure our virtual meeting meets all the conditions of the Open Meetings Act as amended. Therefore, I am making a determination pursuant to the newly created Section 7E2 of the Open Meetings Act that an in-person meeting of the Chicago Plan Commission is not practical nor prudent. Similarly, I am also making a determination pursuant to the newly created Section 7E5 that because of the disaster as declared by the governor, it is unfeasible for at least one member of the Chicago Plan Commission or its chief administrative officer or its chief legal officer to be physically present at the meeting place. Before we get into the full meeting agenda for the August 18, 2022 Chicago Plan Commission meeting, I would like to ask everyone that because we are meeting virtually, please be mindful of your surroundings in terms of noise. Please remember to keep yourself muted when you're not speaking. The meeting is being recorded and also live streamed for public viewing. Lastly, if you are an active participant in the meeting, especially if you're speaking, please do not watch the live stream as this will cause audio interference. Thank you. I want to also provide guidance quickly to those who have pre-registered to provide testimony on the cases presented for public hearing today. Those who requested to testify at the Plan Commission today should have already submitted testimony forms, which included the speaker's full name and address, as well as the public hearing item number, and those forms have been gathered by the staff. I would also like to remind our presenters to please be mindful of their presentation length and to please stay on point in a concise and efficient manner so as to respect the time of all in attendance. Out of respect for others, speakers should please limit your comments to 3 minutes. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted to allow you to make your comments. Please attempt to refrain from repeating comments that have already been made by previous speakers. The public comment portion of the meeting is not a question and answer session of the staff or the applicant, but an opportunity for attendees to voice their opinions on a particular proposal. Out of respect for others, please do not interrupt or disrupt the speakers. Any individual who disrupts the presentation or any subsequent comment session may be muted or removed from the virtual hearing session. We will now call the roll. Commissioner Barclay. Not hearing a response. Commissioner Biaggi. I don't think she's here. Commissioner Brumfield. I thought I saw him log in.
Here.
Thank you.
Apologies, audio issues this morning.
No worries. Commissioner Burnett. Not hearing any response. Commissioner Cox. I believe he's also out. Commissioner Escareño.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores is here. Commissioner Garza.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm present.
Good morning. Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner or Mayor Lightfoot is not here. Commissioner Lyons, I believe is up this morning. Commissioner Murphy.
Yes, here.
Thank you. Commissioner Novara. Not hearing a response. Commissioner Osterman. No response. Commissioner Piñeiro. No response. Commissioner Reyes.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Esposato. No response. Commissioner Tunney.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Villegas. Not here yet. And Commissioner Wagensback.
Here.
Thank you. We will now approve the minutes from the July 21st, 2022 regularly scheduled Plan Commission meeting. The minutes were distributed prior to today's hearing. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the regularly scheduled meeting of the Chicago Plan Commission held on July 21st, 2022?
I'll make the motion.
First, motion from Garza. Do I have a second?
Second, Commissioner Wagensback.
Thank you. Okay, roll call vote. Commissioner Brumfield.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Escareño.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores is a yes. Commissioner Garza.
Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Murphy.
I will abstain. I was not at the July hearing.
Okay. Commissioner Reyes.
Yes, sorry.
No worries. Commissioner Tunney. I know he was here earlier. I think he stepped away from his desk. And then lastly, Commissioner Wagensback.
Yes.
Thank
Tony
you.
is an aye. Tony is an
Okay.
aye.
Thank you. Noah, is that enough votes?
Yes, we have 7.
Okay. Motion passes. Before we move on to the public testimony and regular business, I want to take a moment and say thank you and offer best wishes for future endeavors to Linda Searle. Linda was appointed to serve on the Plan Commission September 10, 1997. After 25 years of service on the Plan Commission, Linda submitted her resignation effective June 30th, 2022. I personally want to thank Commissioner Searle for her mentorship throughout the past 7 years. You're an amazing representative for our profession, especially for women architects. You are a successful business owner, an award-winning architect who's actively involved in multiple boards and organizations. All this experience inevitably translates onto thoughtful commentary for the projects we see come in front of us. I've enjoyed your perspective on what good contemporary design should be. I thank you for being an exceptional role model and for your 25 years of service to this commission. You will be missed. Thank you, Linda. Are there any other comments from any other commissioners?
Commissioner Tunney would like to say a few words.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I just wanted to congratulate Linda, and I wouldn't be surprised that she might have the longest tenure of a Plan Commission member that I've ever heard of. So we've had a lot of fun together, and have almost always been on the same page. And when we don't, I use her architectural expertise to drown out my criticism. So with that being said, good luck, good health, and the city is better for your service. Thank you.
Thank you all.
If I may, Commissioner Reyes, I want to say a few words. She was the first one that welcomed me when we used to do the in-person meetings. We used to I sat right next to her. So very welcoming. So I truly have had the opportunity these last few years, Commissioner Searle, to learn from you. And I echo every single word that Laura says. You will be missed. You will be missed. Thank you for your great contribution to our city.
Thank you.
Thank you. Noah, you want to say a few words?
Yes, I too would like to thank Linda. When I first started presenting projects at the Plan Commission, she was very complimentary and helpful in helping me improve my presentations and hit on things that were key factors for the Plan Commissioners to hear. So I appreciate the mentorship. And then transitioning into my current role, helpful as well, as she sat in the chair position for a number of years. So I appreciate all the help and mentorship and wish you well in your endeavors.
Commissioner Brumfield?
Yes, I'll be brief. Linda, you probably don't remember this. This goes back maybe 20 years ago when we were first introduced by my mentor, Phil Inquist, and we were working on some efforts together. And Phil always said, this person has a perspective, a point of view, and she's unapologetic about it, and she's always right. And that certainly bled over, certainly to my few years here serving with you on the Plan Commission. Always appreciated your perspective. You were very direct and also very succinct with, your point of view, especially as it relates to design, and just proving again that design does matter when we think about how our urban form is crafted here in the city. So not only was it an honor to serve with you on this commission the last 3 years, just really appreciate your perspective, and you certainly will be missed.
Thank you.
So true. Anybody else?
Well, I would just like to say thank you to all of you. It's been a great experience. It's hard to even put it into the right words in a very short time after 25 years, but and getting to know all of you, especially you, Tom, and Noah, who I've been with for a long time. And I was going to say a word about Commissioner Burnett also, because he used to be my alderman, and then he moved to, or our ward got changed. But he's grown and changed so much over the years. He's become very smart about planning, which is great. So I will miss all of you, and it's just, I realize, 25 years, I think that's kind of enough. I think I've done what I should do and say what I should say. And you all are doing a great job of, covering all the bases now, because we can talk about design, we can talk about affordable housing, and we can talk about planning, and all of you are there to, make that important to the city, which it is. I'll miss you. I won't miss Zoom meetings, but I'll miss all of you. So stay well and keep fighting the fight for all the goodness that we need to do and get in Chicago. Thanks.
Thank you, Linda. And I'm sure we'll see you around.
Yeah, we'll see you.
Thank
All right,
you.
thanks, everybody.
We will now move on to the public testimony. We did not receive any pre-registered speakers this month who have submitted a speaking form ahead of items today. Given that, do we have any other members of the public who wish to make public comments at this time? Please raise your hand in the Zoom window and we will call your name in the order that they appear. And we'll give you a few seconds.
So, Chairwoman, I have one person, Benita Turner.
Okay. Benita Turner, are you ready? Can you hear us? And we still can't hear you. Just make sure you're unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. You
Well,
can,
good
you can
morning.
start. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and other commissioners. My name is Benita Turner and I represent West Chatham Improvement Association. And I would like to strongly propose objections to Buddy Bear Car Wash. Buddy Bear approached our community 4 years ago with their proposal and presentation by their president, along with our Alderman Howard Brookins. We had an emergency meeting, standing room only. We took a vote. We objected strongly. It came to our attention on the second time in April of this year that they were still on course to put a Buddy Bear Car Wash on 83rd Street. And again, standing room only crowd. We listened to the presentation, but overwhelmingly, the community objects. I have several reasons. 83rd Street from Lafayette to Vincennes is only one lane of traffic. There are mandated bike lanes on both sides of the street. And hopefully a traffic survey has been taken just to show just the congestion that is already there. And also there is existing Chatham Market that houses many retail marketers, big box as well, Walmarts, Lowe's. And there is already quite a congested scene. We're concerned about the water excess that will be flowing from the car wash to the drainage system that already under rainy circumstances leaves standing water. And homes have been flooded in past years. We do acknowledge the fact that the land has been vacant for quite a few years. We have requested from our alderman to possibly invite a family-oriented restaurant to occupy the space. But to no avail, but we are still very hopeful that we can invite a better investment into the community. There are currently 5 car washes within less than a mile radius of the West Chatham community. We can't see the need for a 6th car wash. We feel it's very unnecessary. The hiring process that Buddy Bear has, they do not offer a lot of opportunity for employment. And we would like to see something on the land that more strongly demanded by the community that would offer more employment for our youth as well as any adults that may be interested in employment. We sit in the 6th district. Our beat is 622. And we are one of the best beats in the city of Chicago, crime-wise. We stand firm in opposition to Buddy Bear Car Wash. We are confident there has to be a better investment on the horizon for this community. We're currently circulating petitions to be presented to the zoning committee in September. Respectfully, I thank you for hearing me. And hopefully that you will hear the cry of this community.
Thank you, Ms. Turner, for your comments.
Next, we have Michelle McGee.
Ms. McGee, are you ready to speak?
Yes, ma'am, I am. Good morning. I will be very brief as I echo our president of the West Chatham Improvement Association's comment, Ms. Turner. We are opposed to any car wash, but since Buddy Bear is insistent on bringing a business that we absolutely do not need nor want, this is the target of our complaint. But any car wash, as Ms. Turner said, we are saturated with car washes. We are constantly looking for other businesses that will come to be a good partner and good neighbor to our community. I have nothing else to say except that I hope that our cries of West Chatham throughout this area will be heard, that a car wash is not something we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGee, for your comments.
Next, we have P. Flowers.
Hi, I'm Pamela Flowers Thomas, and also a resident of the West Chatham community. And I just want to agree with the two preceding. I live directly behind that in that area, and I also am opposed to it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flowers, for your comments. Do we have any additional speakers?
We don't have any other hands raised, Chairwoman.
Okay, thank you. We will now move on to the next item on the agenda. Next on the agenda are matters submitted in accordance with the Interagency Planning Referral Act. Do I have a motion to approve item number 1 under the disposition heading, item number 2 under the negotiated sale heading, and item number 3 under the adjacent neighbors land acquisition program heading? Do I have a motion?
Garza, I'll make the motion.
Move.
Second.
Okay, motion by Garza, second by
Wagisback.
Bragensback. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Brumfield?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Escareño?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores is a yes. Commissioner Garza, can you
Yes.
confirm? Thank you. Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Reyes?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Tunney?
Yes.
Thank you. And Commissioner Wagensback, can you confirm?
Yes.
Thank you.
Marisa Novara is present as well.
Thank you, Maurice.
I'm a yes.
Marisa, I have you in attendance. Thank you. And I say yes.
Yes.
And I believe we have enough votes, correct, Noah? Okay.
Yes, correct.
So motion passes. Thank you. Now we will move on to the public hearing presentation portion for matters submitted in accordance with the Lake Michigan and Chicago Lakefront Protection Ordinance and or the Chicago zoning ordinance. The first item on the agenda is D1, a proposed plan development submitted by Healthy Brighton Title Holding Corp. NFP for the property generally located at 2833 West 47th Street, 2749-2757, and 2749-2745 West 47th Street, and 4717-4723 South California Avenue. The site is currently zoned C3-3, Commercial, Manufacturing, and Employment District, B3-1, Community Shopping District, and M1-2, Limited Manufacturing Business Park District. The applicant is proposing to unify the zoning under C3-3, Commercial, Manufacturing, and Employment District, then rezone to a business plan development. The proposal will establish 4 sub-areas, A, B, C, and D, which will include an existing health clinic, Subarea A proposed new 43,000 square foot medical building, Subarea B, 94 parking spaces, Subarea C, and future uses to be determined for Subarea D, with a total of 227 parking spaces across all subareas. And this is in the 14th ward. Nolan Seraph will provide the context overview and the applicant will present their proposal.
Right. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
And can you see my screen? Great. Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Again, for the record, my name is Nolan Zaroff with the Department of Planning and Development. The item before you this morning is a proposed business plan development for Esperanza Health Centers, generally located at 2833 West 47th Street, 2749 through 2757, and 2749 through 2745 West 47th Street, and 4717 through 4723 South California Avenue in the 14th Ward. The applicant appears before you today because they are proposing to rezone the property from C3-3 Commercial, Manufacturing and Employment District, B3-1 Community Shopping District, and M1-2 Limited Manufacturing / Business Park District to C3-3 and then to a business plan development. The proposal will establish 4 sub-areas, which will include an existing health clinic in sub-area A, a proposed new 43,000 square foot medical building in sub-area B, 94 parking spaces in sub-area C, and future uses to be determined in sub-area D, with a total of 229 parking spaces across all sub-areas. The subject property is located in the Southwest Planning Region in the Brighton Park community area. According to CMAP, there are around 45,000 residents in the community area, of which 7.4% are white, nearly 80% Hispanic or Latino, 10.6% Asian, and 1.4% African American. The median household income is just under $46,000 a year, and the per capita income is around $18,000 a year. The project site indicated in red here includes the properties on both sides of California Avenue. The property is adjacent to Mansueto High School and other medical uses. Directly to the north are the stable residential neighborhoods of Brighton Park, and about a half mile in either direction, west and east, are the Kedzie and Western Avenue Orange Line stations. The future Park District headquarters is also about a 10-minute walk to the east. Here's just a closer view of the project site outlined in red and its proximity to both Mansueto High School and Shields Middle School. You can see some remaining industrial uses to the south and residential neighborhoods across 47th Street to the north. The project site, again outlined in red here, has a mix of zoning, including C3-3, B3-1, and M1-2. The applicant proposes unifying the zoning under C3-3 and then rezoning to a business plan development. Other zoning around the site includes manufacturing to the south, business to the north, and plan development number 1316, which is Mansueto High School, directly to the west. Here you can see some context images of the site. In the upper left-hand corner is a view of the existing facility, their first medical or health center there, looking to the southwest on the corner of 47th and California. In the lower right, there's a site of, a view of the site of the new facility, looking to the northwest. And then here is an aerial view of the site, looking to the northwest. And then in the lower right-hand corner is the site of the new parking lot, looking to the northeast. There are no city adopted or other relevant planning documents related to this site. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to the applicant's attorney, Lenny Azzaro, to continue the presentation. Mr. Azzaro, are you ready? Are you unmuted?
He's just coming in from attendee, sorry.
Okay.
Good morning.
We can hear you.
Okay. I heard the handoff and at that point, I lost everybody. So if everybody can hear me, thank you very much. Good morning, members of the Plan Commission. My name is Lenny Azzaro. I am an attorney at the law firm of Fagery, Drinker, Biddle and Reith, located at 320 South Canal. I apologize. I did not see my video is not on. There it goes. I'm an attorney and partner at the law firm of Faegre, Drinker, Biddle, and Reith, located at 320 South Canal, Suite 3300, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. My firm and I have the honor to represent the applicant, Healthy Brighton Title Holding Corporation, NFP, an Illinois not-for-profit corporation. On behalf of the applicant, the following individuals are virtually present via Zoom. Dan Fulweiler, President and CEO of Esperanza Health Centers. Heidi Ortolaza Alviar, Vice President of Strategy and Business Development of Esperanza Health Centers. Maria Peyot, Principal and Design Director of Urban Works. Carrie Berg, Senior Project Manager and Construction Manager at Urban Works. Jerry Hall, Assistant Project Manager of Terra Engineering. And Kara Goldsberry, Project Manager of McNick Consulting, LLC. The presenters will be Dan Fulweiler, Maria Peyot, and myself. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Dan.
Thank you. Thank you, Lenny. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Chairwoman Flores, for having us. Thank you to all the commissioners. It's also a bit humbling to be with all of you who have done so much to promote community health and wellness across underserved communities in Chicago. So I'm very pleased to be here presenting this project to you. I wanted to give some background about how we got to this place in our efforts to improve health and wellness on the southwest side of Chicago. As many of you probably know, we're a federally qualified health center serving over 50,000 low-income individuals each year with primary care and behavioral health services. And this project really started as a vision to expand our services further to the southwest, where our community of largely Hispanic patients was moving over the past several decades. Our project started in spring of 2016 with multiple community charrettes that we did with stakeholders in the community to see what health and wellness meant to them. So like many of you know, buildings are not just buildings, but they're integral to communities and really a key part of the way that the community views itself and what it hopes to achieve. And this project really started out that way over 5 years ago when we talked to community members about what health and wellness meant to them. That resulted in the building that you saw in the early pictures and that you can see here on the bottom left, the large orange building on the corner of 47th and California that houses our first clinic in Brighton Park. That was completed in May of 2018, just in time for the pandemic, which turned out to be very fortuitous because we've had a very robust response to the pandemic, and this site has really helped the city, I think, achieve a lot of the goals that they wanted to achieve in terms of health equity on the southwest side. So in February to May of 2021, we did a second round of patient and community stakeholder charrettes where we worked with various consultants to make sure that we were hearing even more in depth about what people would want and how we could use the land that we already owned to further our goal of improving health and wellness in the community. We've been working since then on the design of Brighton Park, and as you can see here, we've done zoning intake meetings, had feedback from DPD, and done various levels of revisions to the plan, and done our DPD filing. So now we're here to present the project to you. Next slide, please. So as I've said, we're expanding, we're proposing a significant expansion of services on site. We currently serve well over 10,000 patients at this one site alone. And when we opened in 2021, we had, 2019, we had no idea how fast we would fill up. The demand for our services has been enormous, and we planned, what we hope to do is to expand the building presence on the site by by more than 2 times. And to expand our service as well. So the new 40,000 square foot building that we're planning will offer medical and behavioral services as in our initial building. We're also planning on offering comprehensive senior services. We were just awarded by the state of Illinois Department of Healthcare and Family Services a PACE project, which is a program of all-inclusive care for the elderly. We'll be offering senior day services as well as comprehensive health and wellness services for fragile seniors at the site. We will be offering a family medicine residency program located in the community, training the next generation of family medicine providers to provide excellent care to underserved residents of our communities. There are multiple indoor and outdoor spaces on the site, as you'll see when the architects get to their portion. We have a community-focused super lobby that has multiple services are open to the community. There will be a full-service cafe on site, which we're very excited about to increase dining options in the area, a public plaza, and then a linked pedestrian plaza pathway that also serves as an exercise path around the site. Next slide. Here you can see the two areas that we're talking about. On the left, outlined in red, is what we call Bp1, Brighton Park 1, the initial building on the north end of the lot. The south acre and a half was not developed in the first phase, and we're proposing developing that now. On the east side of California is the blue. This 1.2 acre lot was acquired in 2021 and will serve as additional parking for staff at the new site. And with that, I want to turn it over to our architect, Maria Peyot, to present on the plans.
Thank you, Dan. Good morning, everyone. My name is Maria Peyot. I am Principal and Design Director at Urban Works, and we are the architect of record for this exciting project that will help create a complete health-centered development for Esperanza. The project is located on South California Avenue between 47th Street and 47th Place. The existing Bp1 building is located at the northwest corner of the site and includes the Esperanza Health Center Clinic, a pharmacy, and spaces for social service programs. The new building, Bp2, is located just south of Bp1 and includes additional clinic space, an adult daycare, a cafe, and community meeting spaces. The site includes 133 parking spaces, landscaped areas, pedestrian and vehicular circulation. To the east is an additional 94 space surface parking lot for the use of the Esperanza staff. Throughout the design process, we have prioritized our efforts in creating a complete development that will promote health and well-being for the community. Next slide, please. We would like to thank DPD for their time, their energy, and their involvement in discussions for the improvements of the project. Our team had the opportunity to work hand in hand over several meetings with DPD on design refinements that would better incorporate the principles of design excellence in the project. And this image highlights all of the changes incorporated into the project per our discussions. I will go over them one by one for clarity. Number one, we created a single point of entry into the east parking lot off of Fairfield Avenue in order to minimize vehicular and pedestrian conflicts. Number two, we created a bioswale buffer for the east parking lot along California Avenue. Number three, we revised the building layout to allow for more glazing and visual connection at the northeast corner of the building along California and the new plaza. Number four, we enhanced the north entry by extending the canopies into the vestibule and over the cafe area. Number five, we added a new pedestrian crosswalk along 47th Place and California Avenue. Number six, we lowered the parapet height to reduce the building visual volume. Number seven, we added a pedestrian entry at California and the plaza to encourage the use of this amenity by the community at large. Number eight, we developed the landscape plan to connect the existing green space to the north, providing spaces for social gatherings. And lastly, number nine, we rotated the metal panel ribbing to a vertical orientation and selected a lighter gray tone that complements the yellow toned aluminum composite panels that are placed all around the facade. Next, please. This plan shows the four sub-areas that compose the planned development, and on the right are the primary uses associated with each of the sub-areas. Sub-area 1, shown in green, includes BP1. Sub-area B, in red, includes BP2. That will be the new building. Sub-area C, in orange to the right of California, is the east parking lot, and just north of the east parking lot is sub-area D in purple. The total area for the PD is 4.406 acres. Next, please. Improvements to the site include a large plaza that links BP1 and BP2 along California, intended for the enjoyment of patients and the community at large. Improvements also include permeable pavers, landscape areas, and new tree plantings that greatly exceed the minimum requirements from the city. Related to the east parking lot, we have added parkway trees and landscape buffers along Fairfield to the east, and landscape screening and stormwater garden along California to the west. Next, please. Regarding access into the site and circulation around it, we have focused on maximizing pedestrian safety, minimizing conflicts, promoting a safe, walkable development, and providing pedestrian-friendly building frontages along California. In orange, we're depicting the pedestrian connections around the site and within the site, starting with the continuous connections that exist around the public way. And once you're in the site, the connections that exist between BP1, BP2, and the Central Plaza, which, as Dan mentioned, form a quarter-mile health walk that unites the development and promotes visitors and encourages visitors to stay active. Drop-off for the seniors is located along 47th Place, but separate from the main vehicular traffic. Vehicular access is shown in blue. Resulting from discussions with CDOT, the site has two primary entrance access points on the south off of 47th Place and one at the north off of 47th Street. There is no longer a mid-block entry off of California. As mentioned before, vehicular access to the staff parking on the east is via one entry off of Fairfield Avenue only, away from the pedestrians on California. And lastly, in green, we show the traffic flow of the main thoroughfares surrounding the site. Next, please. This is a first floor plan showing visual connection and access into the building from the plaza just to the north, which brings visitors into the super lobby, the community cafe, the lab, and the senior clinic spaces. Access from the south is convenient for the seniors using the adult daycare services. Next, please. The second floor holds the family medical spaces and is accessed via the monumental stair at the super lobby or via elevators. Next, please. And the roof plan simply shows the RTUs necessary for the project. Next, please. The following 4 slides show the building elevations. All sides of the building are important and therefore similarly articulated. Next, please. The design complements but does not mimic BP1, with the angled elements and materials helping to create a cohesive, unified look and feel for the development. Next, please. The building height to the parapet is just shy of 34 feet, which complements the existing BP1, which stands at 34 feet exactly. Next, please. Large expanses of glass bring natural daylight deep into the spaces, and canopies and overhangs provide protection from the elements at building entry points and exit points. Next, please. This rendering shows a view from California Avenue looking toward the plaza and the main north entry. The axon depicts the materials mentioned earlier: ample glazing to let light in, ribbed gray metal panels in a vertical orientation, and yellow-toned ACM, aluminum composite panels that stand proud of the ribbed metal to provide a play of shadow and further articulation on all sides of the building. Next, please. These massing diagrams show the relationship between BP1 and BP2 and the open spaces in between. The one on the left is looking southwest, and the one on the right is looking northeast. Next, please. This view is taken from the north, looking south. The building design and materials complement the existing BP1, while the distinct yellow-toned ACM serves as a wayfinding element for visitors. The public spaces that connect the buildings and provide areas for socialization and gathering along California Avenue are clearly depicted here. Next, please. The community cafe space inside the super lobby provides a social destination for the community and showcases materials that are warm and inviting with a punch of color and texture. Next, please. And the streetscape view along California shows the massing and visual relationship of both buildings and the plaza that links them. Next, please. Pursuant to the city's sustainable development policy, we are projecting getting to 110 points in sustainability. Next, please. The development will meet the city's stormwater management ordinance and incorporates mitigation via underground detention pipes, permeable pavers, and a rain garden on the west side of the east parking lot. And next, please. These next two slides include excerpts from the traffic study, which were the basis of the site decisions and direction presented previously on site 16. Next. And now Dan Fulweiler will present the many benefits this project will provide to the community.
Thank you, Maria. Yes. Thank you, Maria. And thanks for such an amazing design and to your whole team for what you're bringing to this project. I wanted to outline some of the public benefits of this project. We will be retaining the 90 jobs that we generated at Brighton Park 1. We will also be creating an additional 115 permanent jobs at Brighton Park 2. Over 300 temporary construction jobs will be created. We will have, when completed, 63 exam rooms on site, as well as 7 behavioral health or counseling rooms between the 2 buildings. The senior daycare program to support aging in place, a teaching kitchen, a community cafe, and access to community meeting and green spaces. And then finally, I wanted to point out that at least 26% of the hard costs will be expended on minority-owned businesses, and at least 6% of hard costs will be expended on contracts with women-owned businesses. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it back to Lenny.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Maria, for your presentations. Chairwoman Flores and members of the commission, Maria, Dan, the other individuals who I previously identified as part of our team, and I are available to answer any questions that you may have. First, I want to acknowledge and thank the cooperation from Nolan and the entire DPD staff and team for their diligence and professionalism throughout this project. And of course, it goes without saying, I want to thank Noah as well for helping shepherding this process through and getting it to the Plan Commission. Before turning things back to Nolan, on behalf of the applicant and pursuant to section 17-13-0605 of the City of Chicago zoning ordinance, I respectfully would ask the Plan Commission to reach and forward a favorable recommendation on the PD application to the Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Standards. And I want to thank everyone for their time and consideration this morning. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Nolan.
All right, thank you. So DPD has concluded that the proposal is appropriate for the site and supports this development for the following reasons. It promotes economically beneficial development patterns that are compatible with the character of the existing neighborhood. It is compatible with the character of the surrounding area in terms of uses, density, and building scale. It reinforces desirable urban features within the area. It provides accessible open space and recreation areas for residents and workers, and it complies with the PD standards. Please refer to my staff report for further details on this project and plans identified here today. Based on the foregoing, the zoning administrator recommends that the application for this business plan development be approved and forwarded to the City Council Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards as such. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for this very informative presentation. I'm sorry, I do have a few remarks. I am in full support of this project. I am actually a very proud patient, and our kids are as well of this clinic. So we look forward to the addition of the new clinic. This is becoming a great medical campus in this area, which, you know, as everybody mentioned, is very much needed. We are in full support of their services, their commitment to our community. And we honestly get the best quality service out of this facility. So happy to see it growing. I'm also very happy to see all the changes that were incorporated in the last 3 months. I think they all made this project even better. My favorite one was the extension of the garden into the BP2, which means that I'll have to reprogram my brain to access the site off of 47th now, because I've always done it through California. So that's just going to take some readjusting. And then lastly, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Fulweiler for your commitment to hiring minority and women-owned businesses. It shows, and it just makes this project and this service and all this work that you do even better. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I can't say how much that means to me. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And I believe Commissioner Reyes also wants to make some remarks.
Yeah, very briefly, I want to echo Commissioner Flores, but also I want to say this makes me so proud. Incredibly proud to see such an amazing project that is going to serve and continue to serve the Latino families that desperately need this kind of support. I truly, I mean, these kind of projects make me so proud to be a member of this commission, and incredibly proud of my city, because this is about racial equity that we keep talking. We can make it real with projects like this. So I commend you, Dan, and your staff, and of course, Urban Works, as Commissioner Flores says. Yes, beautiful. I love it. Has my full support. We need to see more of this serving our communities.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next is Commissioner Escareño, followed by Commissioner Garza.
Absolutely want to echo Chairwoman and Commissioner's comments, but what's really exciting for me, Chicago Park District this will be one of our neighbors as we plan to move into the area. And what's really exciting to me about this project, not only that we're going to be neighbors in the near future, but also the care given and thoughtfulness around the open space and recreation, and how all of this is tied to health, specifically in areas that are deprived of these green spaces and areas of recreation for communities, to make it part of a health and wellness business concept is even more supportive of what we are all intending to do to build healthier neighborhoods. And then lastly, I just think the design is really beautiful, and it really complements the community, and it's a breath of fresh air. So definitely also just very proud of the MBE, WBE components here. But again, looking forward to getting to know each other as we all grow in this area. So thank you for great design and thoughtfulness around recreation and healthy environments.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Garza.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am very familiar with the work of Esperanza because I work in the same industry, and I would share with the commission that this is a first-class organization that consistently ranks in the top for quality in the state of Illinois for federally qualified health centers, and consistently ranks nationally in the same industry. So it's not surprising that the organization puts forward a first-class project that will give patients who are underserved a first-class experience. And why shouldn't they deserve that? Because every underserved, unserved patient deserves this kind of experience. So congratulations, Dan. Very proud to call you my colleague, and I can't wait to visit it. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And I'm not seeing any more hands raised. Is Alderman Burke here, or anybody from his staff here to make a statement?
Chairwoman, they submitted a letter, but they were unable to attend.
Okay, so there's a letter of support?
Of support, yes.
Thank you. If there are no more questions or comments from the commissioners, we'll go on to vote. Do I have a motion on proposed plan development submitted by Healthy Brighton Title Holding Corporation, NFP, for the property generally located at 2833 West 47th Street, 2749-2757, and 2749-2745 West 47th Street, and 4717-4723 South California Avenue, finding that it meets the requirements for approval.
I'll make the
So
motion.
move, Commissioner Reyes.
Second.
And I heard motion by Commissioner Reyes and then second by Garza.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Roll call vote. Commissioner Brumfield,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Escareno,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Flores is a yes. Commissioner Garza? you
Yes.
confirm? Yes, thank you. Commissioner Murphy,
Yes.
you. Commissioner Novara,
Yes.
thank you. I believe Commissioner Piñero is in attendance.
Yes, I am, Madam Chair, and I'm a yes.
Thank you. I have you. Commissioner Reyes,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunney, I believe he stepped away. And Commissioner Wagensback,
Yes.
thank you. Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tony is a yes on that. I'm sorry.
He's a
Tony
yes,
is a yes.
okay. So we have one more yes. I have that.
So back, I'm finished with that. I can't do it.
Okay. I think we'll move on to item number 2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is D2, a proposed amendment to business plan development 966 submitted by the applicant SDR Chatham LLC for property generally located at 201-357 West 83rd Street and 8301-8455 South Stewart Avenue. The subject parcels are vacant and unimproved. The amendment to the plan development would add additional permitted uses for Outlot B, which consists of vehicle sales and service and car wash and cleaning services. Outlot B is proposed to be improved with a 1-story car wash building, 4,775 square feet in size with 26 parking spaces. No other changes to the plan development are proposed, and this is in the 21st Ward. Patrick Brutus will provide the context overview and the applicant will present their proposal.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, Commissioner, and everybody else. Good morning, Madam Chairman, and members of the Plan Commission. For the record, my name is Patrick Brutus with the Department of Planning and Development. This proposed parcel subject to this plan development amendment is generally located at the mid-block of 83rd Street between Holland Drive and Wentworth Avenue on the south side of 83rd Street. This site is within the Southeast Planning Region, Chatham Community Area, and also within the boundaries of the 21st Ward. The applicant, SDR Chatham LLC, who is here today, along with the representatives, will ultimately develop the subject site. The subject site sits directly across the street from existing commercial, such as Bank of America, and immediately to the west of the subject site is a Boost Mobile, Athletico. To the south are Planet Fitness and Lowe's. All of these developments are located within the boundaries of PD number 966. This request has been submitted as a mandatory plan development pursuant to section 17-8-0515 and 17-13-0611B of the Chicago zoning ordinance. Furthermore, the applicant, SDR Chatham LLC, proposes to amend the existing PD number 966 to add vehicle, sales and service, car wash, or cleaning service, and to allow Outlot B to be improved with a one-story car wash building. This building will be 4,775 square feet in size, have 26 parking spaces as well. There are no other changes being contemplated with this application to the remaining boundaries of the plan development. The existing PD was adopted by City Council on September 29th, 2004. It was created for and encompasses the entire Chatham Market Shopping Center and is approximately 1.8 million square feet in size, which is equivalent to 42 acres net site area. Current tenants of the plan development include Walmart, the Supercenter, Lowe's, Planet Fitness, Potbelly, and other stores such as Aldi. In preparing for the plan development amendment to be presented to the Plan Commission, the applicant introduced this item to City Council on April 27th of this year and coordinated a community meeting on May 5th, 2022. It is at this point, Madam Chairman, that I would like to turn the presentation over to the attorney, Mr. Chris Leach, who will introduce the development team and explain their proposal in broader detail.
Thank you, Patrick. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Plan Commission. My name is Chris Leach. I am the attorney for the applicant SDR Chatham LLC. And I have with me today, Robert Horton, principal of the applicants, Philip Girardo, on behalf of the car wash operator Buddy Bear, Connor Mulady of JLL, also representative of Buddy Bear, Howard Lowe, the architect for the project, and Monica Opolowski of Bono Consulting Inc., civil engineer and project manager. As Patrick mentioned, the proposed single-story car wash facility is to be located on the south side of 83rd Street between Holland Drive and Wentworth Avenue. Access to the site will be from an existing driveway on 83rd Street and from the access drives within the Chatham Market Shopping Center. The proposed development does not add any new curb cuts to 83rd Street. The car wash facility will be extremely extensively landscaped with grass parkways surrounding the site, with 31 new trees added to the 4 existing trees, and new shrubs and fencing along 83rd Street to buffer it from the neighboring community and the other retail outlets on the site. The facility has 26 on-site parking spaces and 3 lanes of stacking area to accommodate customer vehicles on site. Next, please. On slide 8, we have a rendering of the east and north elevations of the car wash facility, which is a glass and masonry facade. And on slide 9, we also have renderings of the west and south elevations of the car wash, again with its glass and matching glass and masonry facade. Next, please. The proposed development brings with it a $5 million investment to the Chatham community. It activates an vacant outlot within PD 966, fronting on 83rd Street, approximately 100 construction jobs and approximately 8 permanent jobs, and MBE, WBE local hiring goals of 26%, 6%, and 50%. This concludes the applicant's presentation. I will turn it back over to Patrick Brutus to conclude his portion of the presentation on behalf of the applicant and our project team. I would like to thank you for your time today. I'd also like to thank Alderman Brookins for his support, and we will stand ready to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. The Department of Planning and Development has reviewed the materials submitted by the applicant and have concluded, after extensive review, that the proposed amendment to Business Plan Development number 966 would be appropriate for the following reasons. The proposed amended plan development continues to promote economically beneficial development patterns. The proposed amended plan development meets the purpose and criteria set forth in the Chicago zoning ordinance, and its adoption would not have any adverse impact on the public's health, safety, or welfare. The proposed amendment remains compatible with surrounding residential, commercial, and retail developments in terms of land use, as well as the density and scale of the physical structure. The existing underlying zoning for this amended plan development remains consistent with other zoning districts, both adjacent to the site and in the immediate area. And finally, the public infrastructure facilities and city services will continue to be adequate to serve the amended plan development. Lastly, copies of this application have been circulated to other city departments and agencies, and no comments have been received which have not been addressed. Please refer to my staff report for further details regarding this project and the plans identified here today. Therefore, based on the foregoing, it is the recommendation of the zoning administrator of the Department of Planning and Development that this application to amend business plan development number 966 be approved and forwarded to the City Council Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards as such. That concludes my presentation. On file, Madam Chairman, is a letter of support from Alderman Brookins, who additionally is here today attending this commission hearing, and we all stand ready to answer any questions from the commission. Thank you.
Do the commissioners have any questions of the staff or the applicant? Not seeing any hands raised. Patrick, would the alderman like to make a statement, or is the letter on file? Oh, I see.
Yes, his hand is
Yes,
raised.
hand raised. Perfect. Go right ahead, Alderman.
Hey, good morning, and
Good morning.
I apologize for not being on camera. I had surgery, rhinoplastic surgery to fix my accident with the squirrel, but that was 5 years ago. But so I'm not going to be on camera, and I'm going to try to be brief, but I want to be thorough and kind of give the commission a little bit of a history lesson regarding this particular property. This particular property has been vacant for almost 40 years. This mall has been the cornerstone of my career as alderman, as I proposed this mall during my first term of election, where it was supposed to be Walmart, Lowe's, Dick's, Office Max, and several other retailers, all of which the community, or most of which the community was in favor of, although there were still naysayers talking about traffic and other issues that still persist today. The project was delayed significantly. While this would have been the first Walmart and one of the first Walmarts opened in the city of Chicago, it was delayed by union protesters and other people who did not like Walmart. It has always been my guiding North Star with respect to development in the 21st Ward is to not pick winners or losers, and to try to go with the probable as opposed to seeking things that are possible. If we are looking for retailers, which I would like a Ann Sathers, of which Tom told me no, he wasn't coming back south. And I would love to have a Neiman Marcus, which will not come to the 21st Ward. But with that said, these malls and these retailers are fragile. There's no viable TIF in the 21st Ward whatsoever. There's been no significant or any investment in the 21st Ward for the Southwest money, despite the fact that the 21st Ward has a majority of Auburn Gresham within its boundaries as it is currently exists. Even today, the residents that live on 83rd Street, while there's a vocal, and I believe a vocal minority of people with respect to not wanting the car wash, and they don't want the car wash because they don't want the car wash. We listened to them 4 years ago, and 4 years later, there's still no businesses there, despite the fact that that I have gone out, solicited other businesses like Wildberry, like the Original Pancake House, like IHOP, like Culver's, all of retailers which the community is definitely in favor of, and probably would have caused more traffic and congestion up and down 83rd Street than a car wash. There are car washes in communities that have significant retail space in other suburbs in the Southwest and the Northwest areas that seem to coexist well. I'm very familiar with respect to Buddy Bear, who has one car wash in the 21st Ward on 95th and Vincennes, one in Derek Curtis's ward on 87th and Kedzie, one in Michelle Harris's ward on 95th and Stony Island, none of which attract the way he operates his business. They don't attract people hanging out in their establishment. The business is closed early. They keep the place clean and tidy, and they workers appear to be courteous and treat people with respect and come from the community. $5 million is a significant investment for this particular location and will help stabilize that mall and hopefully help attract other businesses to the area. What I've told my residents is that businesses, the lifeblood of a thriving business community is to have viable businesses there. You want to be able to go to a location where you can do multiple things at the same time. If you want to do your shopping, you can go to Walmart. If you want to get some house improvement things, you can go to Lowe's. You can go to Home Depot. You can get your car washed all within the same area and leave that area knowing that you've been able to do your weekly chores in one location as opposed to driving multiple areas across the city, despite the fact that in the African-American community, we have a dearth of retail and other businesses within our community. So while I do hear the vocal naysayers saying that they don't want it, the only way our community is going to be vibrant and healthy is if we continue to attract businesses within our communities, despite the fact of having significant other retail issues that don't seem to plague other areas of the city or the suburbs. So I thank you for indulging me on that filibuster, and I'm open to any questions people may have of me.
Thank you, Alderman Brookins. Do we have any follow-up questions from the commissioners to the alderman? Okay, not seeing any.
So your most favorable consideration of this matter would be deeply appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Since I'm not seeing any more raised hands, we'll go on to a motion for this. Do I have a motion on a proposed amendment to Business Plan Development 966 submitted by the applicant, SDR Chatham LLC, for the property generally located at 201-357 West 83rd Street and 8301-8455 South Stewart Avenue, finding that it meets the requirements for approval?
So moved, Piñeiro.
Moved by Piñeiro. Do I have a second?
Carreño seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Carreño. Roll call vote. Commissioner Brunfield, are you still here? I think he had to step away. Commissioner Escareno, can you confirm?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores is a yes. Commissioner Garza?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Novara?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Piñeiro, can you confirm?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Reyes?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Tunney?
Yes.
Thank you. And lastly, Commissioner Wagensback?
Yes.
So,
Thank you.
so lo and behold,
Commissioner Tenney, I think you're still, yes, thank you. So motion passes. Congratulations to the team.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Now I think that concludes all the items that needed vote. We'll move on to the informational presentations that will be made by DPD staff members to the Plan Commission. The first one is an update on the WMBE goals pursuant to the executive order. DPD staff, Assistant Commissioner Nancy Ratzevich will provide a brief update on the status of the project compliance in accordance with the executive order on WMBE participation to the members of the Chicago Plan Commission. Nancy, are you ready? We see your PowerPoint presentation, but we still can't hear you.
Yes, sorry.
There you are.
Unmuted and
Thank you.
and get the video going.
Thank you.
Good morning. This is a quick agenda. It's nice. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and members of the Plan Commission. My name is Nancy Razovich. I'm an Assistant Commissioner with the Zoning Bureau for the Department of Planning and Development. And I'm here today to present you with an update on the MBE, WBE local hire update, the Minority and Women Business Enterprise and Local Resident Equitable Participation. And this is all based on the adoption of Executive Order 2017-02, which was adopted back in September or August of 2017. I'm going to start the slideshow. Oops, sorry about that. That's not what I intended to do. Bear with me for a second. Hopefully you all can still see that. So again, the Minority and Women Business Enterprise and Local City Resident Equitable Participation on PDs was enacted and initiated back in August of 2017 and effectively took effect with the following Plan Commission meeting that would have been in September of 2017. In this executive order, it established participation goals for minority business enterprises at 26%, women business enterprises at 6%, and city resident local hires workforce for those construction jobs that are being created on site to be at 50%. And then they, both Department of Planning and Development, DPD, in conjunction with procurement services, created some additional resource information and some filing documents that are required at the time applicants provide their reports. One of the resources that is available to all developers and general contractors is there's an online registration database, and this lists all, and you can search by trade, et cetera, for various types of certified minority businesses, as well as the women business enterprises. There's also a list of assist agencies that's kept on the Plan Commission, accessible through the Plan Commission's website, that can also help both GCs and developers to help find not only minority MBEs and WBEs, but also to try to get lined up with some local residents that could fill some of those construction jobs. Since the adoption of this executive order, the Plan Commission approvals, which would have been through the last meeting, July 2022, there have been 268 PD applications that have been reviewed and approved by the Plan Commission. Those total in excess just over $44 billion in total estimated project costs. And the developers at the time of the Plan Commission had anticipated creating just over close to 144,000 local estimated construction jobs as part of those projects. And then at the time they presented their applications and projects to the Plan Commission, To date, all of the developers have committed to meeting the goals as spelled out in the executive order. This slide just provides some additional background on the number of projects that were reviewed and approved by the Plan Commission each year. And, obviously 2017 was a partial year because it started in September of that year. And then 2022 is also a partial year, it runs through July of this year. The second time that applicants are required to provide reports, first at Plan Commission, the second time is when they come through what we call Part 2 zoning review. And that's when applicants come in and present or provide their projects and submit them to try to get building permits. Through July 2022, 134 Part 2 zoning reviews have been completed. It's important to note that that number of reviews also includes some multiple reviews, perhaps on projects, in some cases, larger projects. Applicants may come in for a foundation only and then come in for a final later. So the total zoning reviews, Part 2 zoning reviews, were actually, those 134 reviews were for 124 different projects within 103 different PDs that had been approved to date. At the time of Part 2 review, just over $9 billion in estimated project costs for those projects being permitted, and almost 32,000 estimated construction jobs were to be created. While most of the applicants coming through the door at the time of permitting had still intended to meet the goals, the 26, 6, and 50 for MBE, WBE, and Chicago resident participation, respectively. A few of them actually were further along in the process, and when they filed their projects, they had submitted changes and tweaks to what they thought their participation levels were. So of the 134 reviews to date, those combined and averaged out to be goals of getting 25.2%, which is just below the 26. The combined average was also still at 6% for women, but also slightly lower on the Chicago resident hiring at 46.8. At the time of certificate of occupancy is the time when the final reports are due. And through the end of July, 56 final COOs have been issued for those projects that have been permitted through the Part 2 review process. For those 56 final COOs, to date, we've received 43 reports. And of those 43 reports, 31 of them are complete. They provided all the data and they provided them on the city forms. 12 of them are partial submissions, and partial submissions could mean that they didn't either submit their affidavit or that there was some data missing or some inconsistent data in their reports. The final participation level at certificate of occupancy or completion of the project, based on the data that we've received, is just about $2.3 billion in total project costs have been completed through those PDs. The combined average of those projects had a 19.2% MBE participation, which again is lower than the goal of 26%. Had a 7.4 WBE participation, which is actually higher, and then 24.2% city resident hiring participation, which is actually much lower. It's less than half of what the goal is. Graphically, this is how that shows. The blue line shows the goals, and the red shows where they are at the participation levels. And then I just wanted to follow up by showing the commissioners where the Plan Commission applications were to date, or the PDs specifically, where these Part 2 approvals have come through of those approved PD projects, and the location of the projects that have been completed in those final occupancies. And that completes my report. If you have any questions or would like to discuss this further, I will be available. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Nancy. Are there any questions from the commissioners or from the alderman? I believe we have a few aldermen joining us for this as well. Commissioner Reyes?
Yeah, I'm curious to know because we, as an application numbers, we started with significant numbers, super, super high. And then at the end, the ones that got the final certificate of occupancy, from 100 and see it, the numbers went down. So what happens with the projects that don't get to the certificate of occupancy? And it's incredibly notable that most of the projects are within, I would say, downtown, in some of the north side, a little bit of the west side, but very few in the south and west. And so I would like to see a lot of red dots, So what happens with the projects that don't get approved? I mean, because these people came in front of the Plan Commission and those projects were approved and the zoning was approved. So what happens with that?
Thank you, Commissioner. That's a great question. What I can tell you, and this is typical for larger projects anyways, you're seeing such a big number for the Plan Commission numbers, the 268 PDs that were approved, right?
Yeah.
And what that takes is when the applicants come through the process, they are typically, particularly for the much larger scale, or if there's multiple buildings, et cetera, on the site, they're typically more at a schematic stage. Not nearly at the point of going for building permits, right? At the time.
Yeah.
So,
the process.
So what we usually see is there's that, a lag time between the Plan Commission and Part 2 review on a lot of these projects. Some of them actually move pretty quickly, but some of them can hang out there. And then they have up to, boy, and I'm going to ask Noah to fill me in. I haven't looked at PD statements for a while. I believe 7 years to act upon the Plan Commission.
6 years with the right to ask for a 1-year extension.
Yeah. So it could be up to 6 years after the Plan Commission approval. So once the Plan Commission, approves it, they do have up to 6 years and 7 with the extension to move forward and get a building permit. The other aspect of this, and what I'm seeing, is when they go through the Part 2 review, and that's why I try to quantify this a little bit more by saying, it's 134 reviews, but of that, there's 124 different projects. Those take time to get constructed. So some of these projects that were issued permits in maybe 2020, 2019 are just starting to come in for COOs. So there might be, even after that, another year or two, sometimes more lag time between the time they get their building permits and the time they get their COOs. I will tell you that there's at least 1 or 2 projects that I've seen where they did come in for building permit review, but at some point afterwards, they withdrew their application. There's just a note in the building department section that they, decided not to proceed. They may come back, I don't know, but at this point they decide not to proceed with those. But for the most part, it's assumed at least that those are still active, ongoing projects, that they just haven't gotten to their final COOs. Particularly if they're residential and condominiums and things like that, they may go for partials, as they go through the number of units.
Thank you.
Of course.
I just want to say that I am still concerned about the goals not being met, especially after that, Part 2 review. So it's almost like we would need to have a designated body, almost like a committee, just as we just started doing for design excellence, to have volunteers or staff to help kind of go through the data to make sure it's consistent, to make sure everything's accounted for, because there's a gap, right? There's a gap between that commitment that we see and then throughout the whole process of the project. So we just want to make sure that there's a check-in point that's more thorough, so that we see the numbers go up instead of, barely meeting them. or at the same time, are they even real, right? So I think we started with a good plan, but I think that there needs to be kind of a workforce behind it to make sure that it's being done. I do think that we have to do something about these numbers, you know, going up and these numbers being met. Not sure if anybody else has comments from the commissioners or the aldermen.
No, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Commissioner Flores. I think that that's the other surprising element here, because we started with a significant number of applications. It goes down dramatically, and then the numbers, primarily in the minority business enterprise, we're very far from the 25%. So I would like to know what the city is planning to do in terms of improving this number. I mean, promotion, penalty. I know there are penalties, right? I'm assuming what happens if a project doesn't meet the criteria. In the affordable housing world, the general contractor is supposed to pay a fine. I don't know how it is here, but I mean, I would like to look at the carrot and the stick, right? Not just both of them. So how can we, it surprises me that the minority piece is so below. The city participation is a little bit better, but still, I mean, we're way behind, not even half of it, you know, 24 something versus 50. So
Yeah.
what are we using? How the city is using this information to make it better? I guess that's kind of my point.
So I wanted to address one of your comments first, if I could, where you asked about penalties. It's important to keep in mind, because this is it's a goal. It's an executive order, and part of these are goals. So, you know, unlike in the affordable housing world, where there's actually public funds associated with it, or through TIF, right, where you have an agreement, these are goals. What the only thing that they are technically required to do, if you read, you know, the PD statements and the executive order, is they're required to file the reports. So that's another hurdle that we're wrestling with, is getting them to actually file the reports so that we have, you know, more complete data, because, you know, there's still a lot of lag time, and I don't know if it's a matter of disconnect between, you know, particularly if there's a long time between the developer who comes through the door versus the GC who gets the project. But in some cases, there's just people who just don't respond and don't provide reports. So, you know, in some cases, this data might be very different if we had, you know, the averages, I should say, would be very different if we had all the data to look at. But, you know, this is based on the data we've received. And I just wanted to also clarify one other thing is, this differential between the 50 and 24, that's for the local hires, not the MBE. The MBE is, okay.
We got it. Yeah.
But they're both lower than they should be.
Yes.
Yeah, understood. Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. I believe Alderman Cicho Lopez wants to make a comment.
Yes, thank you. My apologies. I have to keep my camera off. My signal is a little poor. But I think that we have been in these conversations for quite some time in City Council, and I think that we still are not able to make a dent, you know, to what it seems to continue to be an issue that really takes away opportunities in our neighborhoods. In particular, we have a serious situation of violence, and I tell you that local hiring is a very important part of making sure that the opportunities and revenue stay within the city. When we have contractors and job opportunities go outside of the city, when they go to even outside of the state, to be quite frank, we're losing not only opportunities locally, but we're losing revenue that could be can become to our residents. So that also comes to our local businesses, to our local affordable housing developers, you name it. So I do think that this is an opportunity, and I'm glad the commissioners are talking about this. So I welcome the opportunity to work collaboratively and define a pathway to address this, because at this point, as you see, when we are still, the numbers between the city and the actual participation is abysmal. We have, we're not even halfway there. So I think that we got to take this with urgency, because when we lose on local opportunities, and I tell you, I have here directly experiences like that, when we basically have to pull teeth to contractors to do minimum local hiring, when we have all the willingness to collaborate in whatever capacity, apprenticeships, getting more people into these opportunities that are generated by the city. So I really like to urge, and I think I will welcome an opportunity to work in coordination with the commissioners and city council to make sure that we develop a set of recommendations and policies more than anything else to change this around. I think that when we lose on local opportunities, I hope that commissioners see this. We lose on multiple levels. At the city level, losing revenue at this point is something that we cannot afford. We cannot afford to continue to miss these opportunities. I would like to suggest that if we want, we can. I mean, we have had hearings on the matter. We have multiple conversations, but I think what it comes down to is the lack of political willingness to take the next step to introduce legislation that really goes far enough to address the issues that we have. So I welcome the opportunity as a city council member. I would like to work hand in hand with the commission. I know that we have many experts here to develop a set of recommendations that can be implemented in legislation to change this around. This is unacceptable. We do have the ability as a city to regulate, to enforce, and to provide our city with more revenue and opportunities for local residents. So again, I would like to offer my support into making this a priority, because again, when local opportunities are missed, or communities are missing. So thank you again, and I look forward to be of help in any capacity. But I do think that the commission and city council have a responsibility to provide a plan to make sure that this is addressed. Thank you again.
Thank you, Alderman. Very good points. Commissioner Piñeiro?
Yes, I mean, I was going to offer, and maybe Nancy, just a question, and maybe this is done extensively, but I understand the urgency that the alderman just raised, and a few of the commissioners and the chairwoman. Question for you. I think part of it is, and maybe you've done this, I'm curious if, how much granularity do we do related to the statistical analysis? Because I can see, and maybe you do this, but I wonder to what extent. I do see a pretty serious intent of all the project developers that come in front of the commission, that they show that they want to comply with these goals, and they always, or for the most part, let's say, they do present plans for compliance with the goals. And I do wonder to what extent, whether it's a function of certain project size in certain areas of the city. I wonder if more granularity around certain timing associated with where have we failed to meet the goals. I wonder if further analysis, which maybe you've done extensively already, could help us identify where the issues are, more than, a little bit more granular than what we're seeing on this page that you're showing us here.
Yeah, I will tell you, there's not been that kind of spot checks, because until now, we really haven't had much data, because, as we talk about, a lot of these projects take a while to get forward to permitting and take award. So, we only have 43 reports that we're working from right now, but at least we have 43 now, right? So I think we have enough to start doing what you're talking about. And when I met with the chairwoman and vice chair yesterday and kind of did a little briefing with them, one of the things I noticed, and it was more of just a spot check as I was looking, haven't done that, more detailed breakdown that you're talking about, but, I noticed there was a couple of really, really large projects. And those two or three large projects had such low Chicago resident participation that it looks like it's skewing the overall averages, right? And so when I kind of just whatever, for just comparative purposes said, okay, well, what if I pull out those three outliers that that only had, 5 or 10% of the city resident participation. Pulled those out and looked at the data again. Then I got the city resident participation average for everything else was back up to about, I want to say maybe 35, 36%, which is historically what we've been seeing through like the last update that we had done. So, I think there are going to be opportunities to look for those types of, where are these, where are the successful ones, where aren't the successful ones, and whether it's geographically, whether it's size of the project, something like that. I think the other thing that we would probably want to look at is how long ago were these projects actually gone through the Plan Commission, right? So, are the earlier projects less compliant? Are the ones that are, approved more recently, where maybe a developer, it's their second or third time, maybe they've gotten better, right? So, I think there is an opportunity to look at that more finally to see if there are any sort of trends that can show us some better direction.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. Madam Chairwoman, I think that further detail would be very helpful, because if we can identify trend lines of where the problem spots, or what direction are we going in the right direction or the wrong direction? Those are the things that we want to identify to understand how to tackle the issues and really get to the goals that we're aiming for.
Yeah, agreed. And also just to limit that disconnect, right, between phases and between checkpoints. Commissioner Reyes?
Yeah, briefly, I want to add to that detail, the developers, the owners. I think it's important also for us to know that. And especially those three, Nancy, that are the outliers. I would like to have a conversation with them, I mean, the city, of course, in terms of what are the challenges, just as Commissioner Piñero was saying, what are the challenges that they're facing? So how we can make it better. I totally agree with the request from Alderman Siccho Lopez. I don't know how, I mean, I hope that we can get that done, but regardless, I think that there's critical information in front of us that we should be able to analyze and take some action, even though I do totally understand. And thank you for reminding me that this is just an executive order. So clearly there's no enforcement. So we don't have to stick, right? But we need to figure it out. What can we do in terms of a carrot? Can we talk to those big, large developers, owners, and why they're not meeting these requirements? It is, yes, sorry, it's frustrating.
Yeah. Commissioner Escareño.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I think I just want to add one more point. I think I absolutely agree with what is being said. And I think to the question the Commissioner Reyes just posed about talking to owners and operators, as an employer here at the Park District of young people, I do know that oftentimes, and I think when I've heard also references to the pipeline, developing a pipeline. So if this is a greater issue of, whether you have the available pipeline of MBWB workers or subcontractors, what do we need to do to work with other agencies in the city to help us continue to strengthen a pipeline of potential contractors and or workers to meet these very important tracks. And I know that the city colleges and the Chicago Public Schools are already working on that, but I think more immediately, are there things we can be doing together to strengthen these numbers?
Thank you. Yeah, and I think one last comment I want to make that, regarding like the big projects not being able to meet the requirements and having even a greater gap, I think that really needs to be addressed, because that's where, the large numbers of residents would come from. And also our expectations of them would also be higher, because they have the resources. They would be the ones that are, expected to give the training, make the partnerships, mentor all these MBEs, WVs. So I don't think it would be smart to take out those big numbers from the overall pool. I think, if anything, we need to really dissect what's going on with them so that they're just more accountable. Yeah, so that would be my last comment. Commissioner Carreño, your hand still raised. Do you have a follow-up comment? No. Anybody else? Any other comments from the commissioners or the aldermen? I think that's it for this item. Thank you again, Nancy.
Thank you.
We will now move on to the second informational presentation. Is the Western Avenue Corridor Study. This item will be presented by Catherine Hurd. The study is a community-based planning initiative to envision an equitable long-term future for the Western Avenue Corridor from Addison Street to Howard Street. The study examines land uses, development patterns, and circulation along this heavily traveled and diverse corridor. The planning process continues to engage the voices of communities that intersect the study area, which include portions of North Center, Ravenswood, Lincoln Square, West Ridge, and West Rogers Park. The study kicked off in early 2021 and is targeting final adoption by the end of 2022.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Catherine Hurd, and I am a planner in the North region here at DPD. I'm just sharing my screen now. So I'm very excited to be here to talk to you all about the progress we've been making on the Western Avenue Corridor Study, and also give you a heads up on what's coming when we come back in a couple of months for hopefully adoption of this study. So our study area, if you look on the left here at this key map, Western Avenue runs all the way from the north edge of the city to the south edge of the city. It's Chicago's longest street. We are only talking about this 5 miles. That's up the northernmost 5 miles. And so that starts at Addison Street here and goes all the way to Howard Street. And we're looking at Western Avenue itself, as well as the surrounding neighborhoods and connections. So it goes through 4 different wards. It goes through 17 different neighborhoods. And what's really wonderful about Western Avenue is that it touches so many key parts of the city and key issues that we see elsewhere in our neighborhoods and throughout the city. So the ultimate deliverable for this is that we're going to have a long-term vision that we're assembling with our community partners that have recommendations for land use development and infrastructure. And we're also identifying opportunities for public realm improvements, transit and mobility improvements, and future neighborhood development. And a very important part of this is going to be the implementation strategy for short and long-term projects. And there are already things that have come out of discussions of this planning process that are already sort of happening in parallel, that we're excited we can really hit the ground running as this is going to be adopted later this year. So we started in early 2021 with our kickoff. We have a steering committee. We have had several public meetings, and we've had focus groups, which I'll talk about a little bit more, where they're much smaller. And so we've had several rounds of that. And now here we are towards the end of this process, and we are looking at having our final steering committee where we talk about the draft recommendations, and then finally our final public meeting, hopefully late September. So like I said, we have a few groups that we've established. We have a steering committee, which is about 18 people, and it includes the aldermen that are affected, chambers of commerce, some of the key community groups, some of our advocacy partners and experts, as well as some of our sister agencies. And so that is where we're sort of testing ideas and working out, how we can make this an implementable plan in the near and long term. We also have focus groups that I mentioned, which we're 10 people and under for each of those meetings, and we had them by topic, and we also had them by geographical area of the corridor. We've done a couple rounds of that. We also had a youth council that was meeting for the first part of 2021, and they had a bunch of really cool activities that they were doing. If you go to our website, you can see some videos and other materials they made. It was really cool. They were very helpful to get the youth involved in our engagement. That's a group that we typically don't hear a lot from in these types of projects. And so they were very great to have. We've also had our public events. So we've had, they've all been virtual. We've had a lot of direct participation on our Zoom meetings, as well as a lot of views on YouTube. This number is probably higher now. And then we also had a pop-up event in Northtown Library with our youth council to sort of end their semester of work that they did. In addition, we sent out over 15,000 postcards. We've posted 400 interior bus ads in buses that go along Western Avenue and other places in the city. We've placed over 20 bus stop advertisements along the corridor. We've had online surveys, and we're going to launch another one when we release a draft report. We've met with and had individual interviews with businesses along the corridor. We've posted tons of flyers. We have a website. We've been pushing social media. So it's been a big deal trying to get reach as many people as we possibly can here. And one of the things that I just wanted to mention is that throughout this process, we feel that we've been pretty successful with the community engagement because we've been very clear about the sort of terms of engagement, and what we call that is our participation principles. And so there's two types. One is about how we communicate with each other, and they are, we will be transparent by sharing relevant information, ideas, and concerns with one another. We will seek inclusion by listening to as many voices as possible while embracing productive tensions and respectful disagreements. And we will communicate in good faith in a spirit of collaboration and mutual respect. So anyone that's participating in this process, that includes, city staff, aldermen, neighbors, everyone has to agree to these terms to make sure it's a productive conversation, which has been successful so far. And then third, that we all have a shared understanding of what it is we're doing here. And so these are the last three, which are, we will envision the long-term future grounded in data-driven and feasible strategies. We will create a collective vision for Western Avenue that acknowledges the diverse conditions of the entire 5-mile corridor. And we will develop a cohesive long-term roadmap that is the first of many steps towards change. And basically that means that this isn't the final word on any particular projects. Each specific project will have its own public process. So we're just creating the roadmap to make those projects possible. And through all of that engagement and all those initial conversations, we identified a few issues that were really important to the communities and that came up in our analysis as being things we should definitely address. So the public realm and transportation on Western Avenue as a major arterial can be challenging. So we heard from folks that it tends to be a divider rather than a connector, that people don't really want to cross Western Avenue if they don't have to, which is understandable, that there are definitely areas that have very high speeds, and there are conflicts with vulnerable road users, that the transit can be slow or inconvenient or unreliable at times. Also that the multimodal connections can be a little bit difficult and unintuitive. And then finally, that the public realm can be rather unpleasant along certain segments of Western Avenue and a little hostile to pedestrians. For commercial development, we heard and saw a lot of vacant and underutilized storefronts and properties. And there is also just this history of Western Avenue as being a very auto-oriented type of commercial environment, which is changing, but there's still a lot of segments that still have this auto-oriented development pattern to them that are struggling. Those are the areas that struggle the most with vacancy. And then finally, with residential development along the corridor, on the neighborhoods along the corridor, are some of the least affordable neighborhoods in the city, and increasingly so. And so therefore, it becomes hard to preserve the naturally occurring affordable housing, and hard to build the densities needed to be able to keep up with population growth and affordability concerns. North Center is one of the primary hotspots for deconversions in the entire city. And that's one of our community areas that we go through. Lincoln Square is also pretty high up there, which is the other of the two community areas this goes through. And then part of it is the surrounding context of being auto-oriented, and the public realm conditions don't exactly welcome a lot of residential development along Western Avenue. And so it's something we want to address. So the strategic direction that we identified collectively is that we want to envision a corridor with thriving places, safe and attractive streets, and resilient communities. So to create thriving places, the intention is to create these mixed use development and higher density neighborhood centers along the corridor where we have higher density, more public realm activity, and then in between those mixed use neighborhood centers, find ways to activate the underutilized property in between. So whether that's finding ways to do infill housing or activating some of the underutilized properties and storefronts. So some of the strategies that we've identified is obviously within those neighborhood centers, looking at encouraging density, activating the ground floors, activating underutilized spaces, setting buildings back to create more space for pedestrians, and then increasing housing opportunities along the corridor. In terms of creating safe and attractive streets, it's very important that the corridor remains a strategic regional arterial. That's a designation that it currently has, which means that it serves this major function of moving people and goods in the city. There's no highway that runs near here, so it sort of functions like a surface street highway. And so, especially for moving good, that's very important. We don't want freight trucks going through our neighborhoods. So we have to make sure that we understand and respect that role, but we also want to prioritize transit by improving the capacity, efficiency, and experience of transit. And we want to establish multimodal mobility hubs so that it's convenient and accessible to transfer between modes so that people aren't as reliant on private vehicles. And then finally, in terms of bikes, it was pretty, a lot of consensus that having bike lanes on Western Avenue, unless they could be like fully protected, was going to be very dangerous and irresponsible. And so because of the needs of needing to move goods and people by prioritizing transit, the intention is to direct bike traffic to alternative lower stress north-south routes and then help figure out how to complete those north-south routes to make a full bike network for folks in the neighborhoods around here, as well as improving the east-west connections across Western Avenue. So some of the more clear strategies are we want to create green infrastructure and design by adding more, increasing the tree canopy, getting more plantings, improving the bike network with low stress connections, particularly east-west across the corridor, reducing pedestrian crossing distances with refuge islands and bump outs, improving the transit experience with bus lanes, enhanced stops and bus bulbs, and then optimizing the signal timing for pedestrian safety and transit priority. And finally, implementing clear curb management with defined loading zones, metered parking, all that stuff. And then finally, our last big idea is creating resilient communities. And the three major types of resiliency we're focusing on are sociocultural, environmental, and economic. And so we want to make sure that with all of these strategies, they are able to positively impact all three of these, and we need to be monitoring all of them. So, So when we look at that, the environmental, sociocultural, and economic resiliency types all have their own indicators of things that we can measure. So under environmental, air quality, disaster resilience, stormwater, heat island, biodiversity, noise pollution. Under sociocultural, equity, accessibility, mental and physical health, safety, community cohesion. Under economic resiliency, income equity, employment, business success, neighborhood amenities, store and site vacancy, and activation. So these are all things we want to be monitoring as the coming decades unfold, so that we can be refining what we're doing to be able to positively impact those things, all through transparent processes and community engagement. So I want to just give you, so that's our big ideas. That's sort of what we've been working on. I want to give you a little bit of a preview what we are working on now and what we'll share with you when we come back. So like I had mentioned before, we have been trying to identify areas that are our neighborhood centers where we want to concentrate density and activity. And so the ones we've identified here are Byron, sort of roughly around Byron, which is just south of Irving Park, Lawrence, Bryn Mawr, Devon, and Lunt. And these were areas that were defined with our community partners. We've had focus groups on each of these as well. And what a neighborhood center means is that it will have several ingredients. One, it will have transit access, both in terms of access as well as multimodal transfers. We'll have a mixed use core that's a higher density core and active ground floor. There'll be commercial, institutional uses, and all tied together with an active public realm that's comfortable, convenient, and accessible for all ages and abilities. And finally, within 15 minutes of each of these neighborhood centers, we want to really reinforce that there would be a variety of housing affordability levels and unit types to be able to serve folks in these neighborhoods. So all of those are things that we are working on to create these sort of 15-minute neighborhood cores throughout the corridor. And then within each of our neighborhood centers, we are working to define opportunity sites. And so those are sites that we believe, based on what we've been seeing in other neighborhoods, that these are sites that might be redeveloped in the future. And therefore, we should be prepared if and when they do. So we understand what, guidance we would want to provide to a developer that's doing that, or what guidance we'd want to provide to whoever is going to be reviewing those development projects. So the criteria would be if the current use is incompatible with the long-term future vision of the area, if the current structure is incompatible, or if the site is otherwise underutilized. So these are the types of things that we look out for to try to identify our opportunity sites. And the final thing that I mentioned previously is about implementation. And that we're also going to be working out before we come back, but it's very important that we work as a team to make this happen. So our primary implementers on the left here are aldermanic partners, the city departments and sister agencies, and our chambers of commerce and SSA, that we are going to be the ones that need to be driving much of this, but it's critical to have support from our neighborhood organizations, advocacy organizations, and the neighbors themselves. And between all of us, we have 4 basic implementation steps that we all need to keep in mind. One is that we have to identify and allocate resources for projects based on the study's recommendations. So we identify projects in the study, we need to find a way to make those happen. Then pilot innovative policies and projects along the corridor and evaluate their impacts to refine and expand what's working. So that helps us move into longer term by learning from what we have been trying. And then also using the study recommendations and guidelines to evaluate and advocate for projects. So this is supposed to make it easier to review projects and easier for developers to know what the community and the city and others expect and would support in certain areas. And then also promote development opportunities to businesses, property owners, and developers, and assist them with navigating the process. So this is my last slide. So our next steps are that we're going to have our final steering committee meeting later this month, where we're going to talk about some of the specific recommendations and the implementation steps. Depending on how that goes, if we feel like we're in a good direction, we're going to target late September for our final public meeting. That's also when we release the draft report to the public. Then we would come back in November to Plan Commission. This is our target to get final adoption of the study. So at this point, any questions you have, I'm happy to attempt to answer.
Thank you, Catherine. Any questions or comments for Catherine or the staff? Commissioner Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, I can go last if others have other comments. I just wanted to just wrap up some things that Catherine was mentioning, and then I was just going to speak briefly to how we're tying this into other things that we're doing, from a zoning and planning side.
So then maybe we'll go next with Commissioner Reyes and then followed by Commissioner Piñeiro.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, Catherine. Just a question. I am sure that the you guys have done other big avenue corridor studies. So are you using those lessons learned to this one? Like, I don't know if it's something similar to have been done to Ashland Avenue. We have so many important avenues that are the heart of our community. So I would like to assume that there is kind of an overall plan that all those large avenues, corridors will be studied, and that the lessons learned from there will be, considered for the next ones.
Yeah, that's a great question and a very good point. And it's actually the opposite of what you're saying in that there isn't a model that already existed. Through this process, we are creating a model so that we can do this in other places. This is, as far as I know, the largest corridor study the department has done. This is a regional corridor. It's not common to get 4 different aldermen and all these communities involved in one planning process. We were fortunate that these are groups that want to work together, that understand the value of seeing a larger vision together. But the intention of doing this was we had a very wide net of all the folks we needed to interact with. So community engagement and working with our partners and stakeholders is, I don't know, 75% of this work at least. And so we wanted to create a model that we could replicate in other places. The other thing that's interesting about Western Avenue is there's so many issues that we see on Western Avenue that are issues in other places in Chicago. And so we're hoping to sort of have some a kind of a baseline foundation that we can build on and be able to modify in other contexts in the future.
Great. I'm happy to hear that this will be this is the first one, that this will be the model. Yes.
Yeah, we're pioneering right now.
Yeah. Thank you for your hard work.
Commissioner Piñeiro?
Yes, Catherine, thank you for the presentation. I find it tremendously exciting. It's a project that can really be transformative to that community. So, and it sounds like you guys have done an immense amount of work already in engaging the community and so forth and so on. So, question for you, assuming that we follow through with the November Adoption Plan Commission, what's the timeline? What are the big milestones subsequent to that? How does this progress into implementation, which is what we ultimately want to see? Can you give us a sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you right now, we are already starting to implement things. So what I mean by that is that there are several development projects that have come to us for review, either to DPD or to the aldermanic offices for zoning changes. And we have been using the feedback that we've heard through our engagement with neighbors and others in the area, and sort of the best practices that we've vetted through that process. We've been using those kind of preliminary guidelines to review development proposals as they're coming in now. So, and including other projects like affordable housing projects that are being proposed on this corridor. So we've been already using sort of the guidelines and principles that have been established already. None of those projects are built yet. That will, take another couple of years before we'll see the first of those projects that have been evaluated under these at least preliminary draft recommendations. The other thing that's happening is that we've been working with CDOT and CTA to identify specific targeted improvements that can happen in the public realm. So pedestrian improvements, bus stop improvements, several other types of things, plaza improvements, things like that, that are sort of short-term things that we can do right now to try to establish these are the priorities that we want to build on in the future. It will be to do any redesign and reconstruction of Western Avenue is likely to be beyond just Addison Avenue. Like if there's going to be a revisioning of how Western Avenue works and what the cross section looks like and all these other things, that's a bigger project than we're going to cover in this segment. And that would need to be probably a big undertaking with many other folks. And so, but we just want to, as a part of this process, establish some of the short-term things we can do as sort of pilot projects that then we can use as a proof of concept to inform those longer term infrastructure improvements.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Brumfield?
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, Catherine. I just kind of wanted to, oh, go ahead.
Commissioner Murphy, I think we have Commissioner Brumfield also wanting to make a comment.
Oh, that's fine.
No, Commissioner Murphy, please. Yield to
Okay,
you.
well, all I was just going to say was just to kind of wrap up the things that Catherine was talking about, and just to kind of highlight that the work that she's talking about along the corridor along Western, and what we're hoping to, come out as a template and a model for how we look at some of these commercial corridors throughout the city, has been a focal point of Commissioner Cox since he started here with DPD, looking at the commercial land use in the city in a lot of ways that it's underutilized. There's a high amount of vacancy, and trying to think of new ways to utilize some of these spaces. And what I had mentioned earlier was that, we're taking some of this philosophy and we're still applying it on a smaller scale level, namely through items that come through to the Zoning Board of Appeals, where there are requirements to look at ground floor uses in regards to what new proposals might be considered for a special use. So we do look at some of these other areas that she was talking about, as far as what the other activity is. But then the high points about Western, especially looking at the developments in nodal areas to concentrate development, to look at some of the car-centric uses and how those can be either consolidated or how they can be addressed to be reused, has been a lot of work with the Department of Transportation, as well as the aldermanic offices and community groups. And we're continuing to work internally, and look forward to coming back with the recommendations later on this fall. So thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you. Commissioner Brumfield?
Catherine, I just want to applaud you for and your team for taking this task on. This was a very long corridor, and I'm sure everyone knows the geography and kind of the different personalities that this corridor takes as you go up and down it. But I kind of have maybe an unfair question to ask you, given that this is a pilot and the things that you've actually learned and how you would actually could approach this the next time. What are some of the lessons learned that you think came out of this initial effort that you probably want to kind of refine and adjust as you look to the next corridor?
Yeah, thank you for that not easy question to answer.
I had to put it in there. Sorry.
I think that's very fair. So one thing that I would say is that it's been really important to be working with multiple aldermen through this process. That often doesn't happen in planning studies. And I think being able to look at things from a more regional lens has made everything both more challenging, but also more likely to actually result in recommendations that we can implement, because it means that we have to work very, very hard to get everybody on the same page, make sure everyone understands what their roles and responsibilities are to be able to implement this overall vision, make sure we all support and are going to be advocates for this overall vision moving forward, because that's what's critical to actually have a study that you can do something with and not just a study that we can say, check, we finished a study. So that's been very important. I will say that 5 miles is a very large area to undertake at one time. There are, I believe, over 100,000 people within, a half mile of this corridor. So it's a very large corridor, a lot of different conditions and many neighborhoods along it. And it is a microcosm of the larger city. And so, it is taking on a lot of issues that are not just specific to Western Avenue. It's taking on issues that we see throughout the city that also manifest themselves on Western Avenue. And so it has been a very ambitious first stab, but I think it's been helpful that we've had as many stakeholders involved as we have been, because that gives us a good model moving forward as we do other corridor studies like this, that we can say, hey, these are models that worked and that we got people on board with. And yes, it was a lot of work to do that, and it took a lot of time, and these things take time, but we're hoping that we can actually start seeing some results very quickly, and we are fairly convinced that we will, just because so much stuff is already in the works.
Commissioner Reyes?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have to ask this question too. Can you share with us your challenges and the opportunities in terms of the community participation, community engagement? I really liked how you presented this from the point of view how you were able to engage the community. So I would like to know what are your lessons learned from that process, because I think that is incredibly important. I do value the work being done with the aldermen, but it's also important to talk directly to the residents that are going to be impacted by these changes.
Yeah, and that's what's been really interesting about this, is that it's not that we are just working with the aldermen directly and then they are sort of the proxy for the community. They are part of this larger group that is providing feedback and guidance and taking ownership over aspects of this. So I would say that, as I mentioned before, the community engagement consensus building aspect of this has been most of the process. And so it's very hard to overestimate how much that will take. It's really, you really need to do a lot of engagement early, often, and in many different ways. And so just sending an email or just sending a postcard or just putting up a flyer, none of those things are going to reach everyone that you want to reach. And also needing to be more targeted. So we've had some of our on-the-ground partners, so the aldermanic offices, the chambers, and others that would actually distribute flyers into apartment buildings and some of the other groups that we're not reaching. We did an initial survey that asked folks, some demographic information so we could tell who we were and weren't reaching, and then we were able to sort of pivot so we could find ways to more easily target the folks that we weren't reaching. Having the youth council was huge because, again, it's very hard to get young people interested in this, but it's also critical because they are the ones that are inheriting this and they will be the future stewards of this area. And so it's very important to understand their perspectives, their vision for the future, because they will be building that vision and we want to support them in being able to do that. So I would say the big things are be very proactive with the engagement, be as transparent as possible about everything that's going on, share information that even if it isn't fully baked, like at least share, hey, this is something we're working through and these are the trade-offs that we want to discuss with you so that everyone understands why certain decisions might be made in the future. And then empower folks to be able to make those decisions and take ownership over the aspects where it's appropriate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. Again, I think that's it for questions and comments. Not seeing any more hands raised.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll go on to our third and last informational item. The last of these updates will be an update on We Will Chicago and will be presented by Gabriela Jurasic. We Will Chicago is a 3-year citywide planning initiative under Mayor Lori Lightfoot that will encourage neighborhood growth and vibrancy while addressing social and economic inequities that impair Chicago's legacy as a global city. The Department of Planning and Development will provide an update on the release of the draft framework plan and the public engagement activities planned for the summer and fall of 2022.
Hello, let me get my slides up here. My name is Gabriela Jurasek, and I'm the Assistant Commissioner of Community and Digital Engagement for the Department of Planning and Development. And I am here today to give you an update on We Will Chicago, specifically about our engagement efforts. And I will also be accompanied by my colleague, Amanda Carlson from the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events for an update about how DCASE has stayed involved in this process as well. So many of you are probably already familiar with We Will Chicago. It is the first citywide planning process since 1966 and will chart a better future for all Chicagoans in every neighborhood. We are guided by the principles of equity and resiliency, and the plan will acknowledge Chicago's complex history and position residents to grow and succeed together in the coming decades. So We Will Chicago is unique. As I mentioned, we have our two main principles, equity and resiliency, and these are defined as equity, which is both an outcome and a process that provides people and groups with fair access to resources and opportunities so that they can thrive. And resiliency is the ability of an individual or a group to thrive despite stresses, obstacles, and setbacks. So this is just kind of an overview of the We Will Chicago pillars, which are what are essentially quality of life indicators for all of Chicago residents. Originally, we had 7 pillars that were developed in the 2020 pre-planning process that happened in the fall of 2020. Last year, we did a lot of work with our pillar research teams, and early in 2022, from a lot of the feedback that we received, we actually added an 8th pillar called civic and community engagement, because what we were seeing in the feedback from all of our teams was that civic and community engagement was just an essential part of every one of these quality of life indicators or topics, if you may. And so we needed to elevate that to a status so that the approach, regardless if you're working on a project with the Department of Cultural Affairs or Special Events or with the Department of Transportation, we're striving to have equal opportunities for community engagement. So a little bit more, what are we imagining that this plan will do? So We Will Chicago will guide the city's future. It will help align annual budgets, major projects, and policies. It will ensure more equitable development, establish standards for neighborhood plans going forward. So even quality of life plans in neighborhoods that are not currently run by the city, this may also be a tool for them to use as well. Create standards for public decision-making. It's going to emphasize ways to include communities in development planning, and it will inform land use and zoning decisions. There are no specific land use or zoning recommendations within the plan, but this is essentially a framework for how to make those decisions and policies going forward. So right now in this engagement period, we're working with 3 consultant teams. We are happy to partner with Blue Daring to work on our visual design elements, communications planning, and providing marketing support. Muse Community and Design is handling our outreach teams, which I'll get into a little bit more, and facilitating our focus groups. And Site Design is partnering with Blue Daring to do program development and activation for some of our ideas that I'll get into a little bit more. So just to recap where the process has already gone through and where we are. 2020, as I mentioned, was this pre-planning period where there were community conversations that were held to decide on these pillar topic areas and the guiding principles. In 2021, we had an open application process to recruit volunteers and community partners to be involved and really serve as the deep community engagement element of this, where they were going to be helping craft these goals and objectives for the plan itself. We also had last year artists teams who held about 80 public events to also gather public input. And all of this work was kind of put together into what we actually have in our document right now, which was just released on July 14th of this year. And so we now have a draft that is available for public review, and we are in our official public comment period. And what we are planning to do is come back to the Plan Commission in early 2023 for a final review and hopeful adoption of the plan. And then following that, we'll be getting some budgeting and implementation engagement as well. So as I mentioned, we launched the plan itself on July 14th. We had a really exciting event at the Garfield Park Conservatory where we invited all 115 participants who had helped craft this document to celebrate. It was our first in-person gathering because, this whole process was really changed to a virtual process because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So it was really exciting to all be together in person. And we also had a guest speaker, Sherman Dilla Thomas, who is the TikTok historian, who kind of gave us some really great historical context for the work that we're doing. So the document itself is available to read. We also have printed versions, which we will make sure to get delivered to all of the commissioners shortly. Inside the actual plan itself, each of the pillars has an introduction. We also get into some key terms that just will help define some of the goals that we get into. The goals themselves also have some kind of introduction area to explain what we're trying to achieve. Along with that, the objectives are below it for each of those goals. And we really knew it was very important to include supporting data that helped define each of these goals. So these are going to be metrics that we will continue to track pending adoption by the Plan Commission, the success of We Will Chicago over time. So you can review the full draft right now at wewillchicago.com/draft. And you can download it there, and it's also divided into chapters to kind of easily review. So each of these outreach initiatives, I'll be going into a little bit more detail on, but we knew that it was important to really try to activate as much of the city of Chicago as possible in this process to confirm whether these goals and objectives actually aligned with what the people of Chicago want for the future of their city. So a number of our initiatives include street teams. We're running focus groups currently. There are active surveys on our website and both in person that can be taken. We're doing a lot of digital outreach. We also have a CTA campaign, which will hopefully be launching early September for people to kind of build awareness of We Will Chicago. We're working on some pop-up installations with site design. There's a virtual event series that's going on, and also there are artist projects, which we are currently in the process of reviewing. So the We Will Chicago street teams have so far attended nearly 30 neighborhood events and festivals since June. The concept behind this is that we really wanted to go where people were gathering, especially in the summer. We are taking these street teams who are hired by Muse, and they are paid to, so this is kind of a job creation as well, to go into these communities and solicit responses to our survey to collect quantitative data about whether people agree or disagree with the goals that were developed for this plan. So these are just a few pictures from where we've been so far. We were at the Taste of Chicago in Pullman, Daily City, the Daily Plaza City Market when we launched on the 14th. And just recently we're at Jeff Fest. And I think we had a really great time out there as well. So you can view a full calendar of all of the events that are happening. These events are going to continue through the end of October, and you can pick one that maybe is in your neighborhood at wewillchicago.com/calendar. We are currently running focus groups with Muse, and the way that these were kind of created were that through our advisory committee as well as through the staff, we did this open application process to kind of recruit the core pillar research teams that were convened through most of 2021 and early 2022. Because it was an application process, and people had to find out about it. We know that there were some gaps in identities and geographies that we weren't able to kind of pull into that process. So we wanted to supplement that work with kind of some specific outreach to some of these underrepresented groups. And so what we've been doing is selecting at least 3 for for most of these pillars, community organizations that kind of align with the work of the pillar. And then those organizations are selecting 3 community members from their organization to come and participate in these focus groups about these pillars. And those participants are being paid for their time to share with us feedback on, the goals that have been developed for each of these pillars. So this is, they're smaller group conversations, but we think it's a really rich way to kind of get feedback from people who may not traditionally have been involved in this type of process previously. We also know that we have some gaps within the private sector, philanthropic organizations that we're going to be holding some focus groups run by the Department of Planning and Development to kind of talk to, board members from the Metropolitan Planning Council. We have some participants from BMO Harris Bank and their colleagues that they're going to recruit to really dive into some of these conversations with key members who are at, large organizations that will also be impacted by this plan as well. We're also going to be coordinating with our special service areas and the local industrial retention initiative councils to hold some focus groups with those folks as well. So the surveys that are being run at these in-person events are on iPads or tablets, and it's basically asking the public, do you, from 1 to 5, do you strongly disagree to strongly agree with each of these goals? So far at our street team events, we've collected over 1,700 responses as of yesterday, I believe. And so we are also that's kind of what we call the to-go version of the survey, because if you're going to be at an event, we're catching people who are there to listen to a concert or have some great food. So they may not be super familiar with We Will Chicago to begin with. And so it's kind of an abbreviated version of the survey, but we do require them to enter their zip code so that we can do some mapping, which I can share on the next slide about where people are coming from and we're getting the feedback. We also have longer versions of the survey on our website that go into each of the pillar topic areas with much more detail. So you can rate the goal as well as the objectives. And then there's space to provide just written comments on what you think of the pillar overall. So as of yesterday, we've collected over 3,000 survey responses between all of these efforts. And these are going to continue through November 1st. So we'll be able to provide a report in the final version of the plan that includes another update on where we are and how successful we are with this process. This is just a preview of the in-person survey so that you can see, we enter the zip code. If they want, they can give us an email address to sign up to get updates. And then they can pick a pillar that they're most interested in, and then they can rank, whether they strongly disagree to strongly agree with that goal. These are also available in Spanish and simplified Chinese, so they can toggle right at the top if they'd like to read it in a different language. And the staff that Muse has hired, a number of them are bilingual, which we really wanted to be a priority so that we could speak to folks more easily about the plan. This is a handy map that just kind of shows the zip codes that we've collected so far from our in-person surveys. And you can see we've kind of had pretty good distribution across the city, depending on the different events that we were at. I think Jeff Fest, which happened 2 weeks ago, and we were also at Edison Park Fest, were super successful, and we had a lot of great attendees. So that's why the Northwest side is getting a lot of attention right now, but it'll be balanced out because you'll see that there is events that is going to be happening across the city that are coming up. So this coming weekend, we will actually be at the Lincoln Square Farmers Market. We will also be at a back to school event in Garfield Ridge and the Glenwood Avenue Arts Festival in Rogers Park as well. So you can read the whole schedule about where we're going to be on wewillchicago.com. We've been doing a lot of digital outreach. We have some social media campaigns that are currently running on Facebook and Instagram that are kind of highlighting and hoping people participate in the process. We have a really fantastic video that Mayor Lightfoot created for us that we posted on the day that we launched, which was a way to kind of encourage our collaborators who were part of the pillar research teams to participate and share, their experience. So this is one of our participants, Guillermo Cruz, kind of sharing the video and about his experience as a pillar research team member. And then we have display ads that are running if you're downtown, near City Hall or the digital display network. There's a few that are on the expressways too that are kind of just more awareness about We Will Chicago overall. We also, as I mentioned, will hopefully be getting our CTA campaign launched in September. So we're going to be on all of the train lines and all of the basically, this is decided by the bus depots. So you pick the bus depots that you would like to have cards in, and then all of the buses that go in and out of those locations get cards added to them. And we'll also be on bus shelters across the city as well. And there's a QR code on the bus shelter ads to hopefully get people to scan and learn a little bit more about We Will. We are planning to do some fun pop-up installations. These are just concepts. This is not a final product right now. We're actually scoping this out, and we're hoping to partner with some local organizations to host us, or a library or park district space where people can just kind of see something super interesting that might lure them in to learn about We Will Chicago, and then have an element of interactivity, whether that's leaving us notes or that type of thing about the process. So this is still being scoped, but it's something we're very excited about. We have a virtual event series, which is hosted by the Metropolitan Planning Council and the Chicago Council on Global Affairs. This is really matching Chicago thought leaders with experts from around the world to talk about each of these pillar topic areas. So today, which actually already started at noon, is the Public Health and Safety webinar, which has representatives from the Chicago Department of Public Health, as well as health professionals from Toronto and Helsinki. And Amanda, if you're still available, would you like to speak?
Sure. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. I'm Amanda Carlson, and I'm a senior strategist at the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events. And I'm really, it's been an honor to be able to work with my DPD colleagues on the artist projects as part of We Will Chicago. As Gabriella mentioned, artists have been involved since 2021 with this project, and the images on the slide in front of you are actually from engagements that were led by the artist collaborative Honeypot Performance and their team of artist organizers to connect Chicagoans with creative experiences that could inform the work of the pillar teams. Now, in this current moment of We Will Chicago, DCASE and DPD are working together to sustain this commitment to artists in the planning process, to build on the lessons from the first round of engagement, and to work with artists to draw on their talents as interpreters and translators of complex ideas to continue to connect with the residents of Chicago. Artists and creativity are essential parts of multiple pillars in the draft plan. And as such, it's our hope that this new round of artist projects continue to highlight the unique role that our city's artists can play in connecting municipal processes with Chicagoans in ways that are personal and illuminating. So our goals at this point are for the artist projects to bring attention to the planning process and its outputs, to provide a space for interpretation and analysis of the plan's thematic and substantive elements, and to foster collective understanding and exploration and action around We Will Chicago. Artists and artist teams will conduct research and engage with the materials produced in the draft framework, and then they will collaborate with community partners and members of the public to develop projects, presenting this work in public over the course of their contracts. This may look like walking tours, exhibitions, performances, or even print, video, or audio pieces. DCASE is currently working with DPD and external members of the arts community to select the artists and artist teams. And then these projects will take place starting in fall 2022 and extending into 2023. acting as a through line and thread through the public engagement elements that Gabriela just mentioned and into WeWill's next steps. And we look forward to sharing these projects with you as they take place. So thank you so much. And
Thank you so much, Amanda. Just gonna move ahead. So next steps, we are currently in the midst of our core engagement period, which is the summer and fall. So these activities will continue until November 1st, which will be the end of our public comment period. November through December, we're going to be taking all of the input that we've received and analyzing it and adapting the plan's goals and objectives based on that public feedback. And then we're hoping in January 2023, we'll be coming back here to present you all with the final version of the plan. And then I just have a few relevant links that will share this document with all of the commissioners as well to follow up. But you can review the draft of the plan at wewillchicago.com/draft, a calendar of the street team events, and to register for the Global Voices Local Action webinar series at /calendar. You can take all of the long form surveys online at /surveys. And then you can also register to receive email updates about We Will Chicago at /register. So that is the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Gabriela and Amanda, for that presentation. Are there any questions or comments? Commissioner Reyes?
Sorry. I don't know if I missed it, but could you talk about the Latino outreach that you guys have done so far and what is next between these few months that's still going to be happening? I noticed is that some of the Latino communities in your map were not really showing a significant amount of participation. So is it that we are not being invited, or is that we are being invited and our community doesn't want to participate?
No, we definitely have had it. The map is a little bit skewed right now because we're just through, part of our calendared events that are happening. We were at the Taste of Chicago in Little Village. We've had a number, going back to my list of events that have already happened. We were, all over. We were at the Sundays on State. We were at the, a number of, I can provide you with a list of the places that we've already been with. But we do know that there has been a bit of, in our initial group that was recruited, a smaller percentage than we would have liked of Latino and Latinx volunteers and community partners. And so some of the organizations that we have gone back to participate, specifically, I would have to go back to my colleagues to see where they aligned with. But I'm pretty sure that we do have a number of La Casa Norte. We had Enlace. There were and another few organizations that I can get some more details for you on. But we are trying to cover some of that with the focus groups that we've been holding. We also are going to be presenting to all of the mayoral advisory committees as well in the coming months about this process, and hopefully recruiting more of their participation as well. The plan is actually going through this 148 plan page document is currently being translated into Spanish and simplified Chinese. It is going to take 6 weeks. So I'm expecting to receive it. They said the latest is by September 2nd. So I think we'll have more ability to do outreach once the entire document has been translated in September as well. So that was a really huge lift, and we just it's huge, and it has a lot of data in it as well that needs to be translated. So that's just kind of an unfortunate misalignment with some of this, but we do have our surveys are in the process of also being translated, and the one that's at the in-person pop-up events has already been translated.
Yeah, I will appreciate if you can share the list, and I can probably add more to that, because I do value you guys talking to Enlace and Casa Norte, but clearly there's a lot more. Like the organization that I work for has a big meeting tomorrow And I don't know if there's still time to do something about it, but we will have a public meeting, and so there's going to be a significant amount of people. So I'd be happy to help in any way I can, because I think it's important that I value that you guys have translated everything, but truly this is a key period of this process, which is, you know, talking to the residents. So I would like to see more of the Latino voices being, you know, heard.
Yes, and I'll be happy to follow up with you on that as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else? Everybody's pretty quiet. A lot of information shared today. Thank you. I think that's it for questions or comments on this one. Thank you again, Gabriela and Amanda. I guess this concludes this month's meeting of the Plan Commission. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved by Commissioner Brumfield.
Thank you, Commissioner Brumfield. A second?
Second, Piñeiro.
Thank you. Everybody's ready. Okay, so Commissioner Brumfield was a yes. Commissioner Escareño?
Yes.
Thank you. Flores is a yes. I believe Commissioner Garza already stepped away. Commissioner Murphy? He
Yeah, I
is-
believe, Chairwoman.
Okay, he's gone. Commissioner Novara, are you still here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Piñeiro was a yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Reyes?
Yes.
Thank you. And I think the last one, or I don't see Tani anymore, correct? Did he step away? I think so. And then last one, Commissioner Wagensback.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for sticking around. See you all next month. Enjoy the rest of the summer. Motion passed.
12:43 for the court reporter, 12:43.
12:43. Thank you, Noah.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you, Madam Chair.